The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa CIB, equipping you with efficient and secure cash management solutions for your business.
And now, The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
7 minutes after 6, good evening. Welcome to The Money Show. I'm Stephen Grootes. Glad you're with us this Friday evening. Quite a busy day on the JSE in terms of sort of updates coming through in various ways from various companies. We are kind of heading into that season. We have a few results interviews scheduled for you next week, particularly Monday, I think is going to be quite busy. But it also gives you a sense of what's going on and happening in the economy. For a long time, we've seen various divisions in our society, and I'd suggest that one of the biggest divisions we've seen is between those who have access to fibre broadband, what I would call reliable, very fast, unmetered internet. In other words, it doesn't cost you more the more you use it, right? And those who don't, which of course is still the vast majority. Well, a big step in sorting that out today with the Vodacom Maziv deal being approved by the Competition Appeal Court. There is sort of one kind of half hurdle left. We'll explain that more in a moment. What I'm hoping happens, and I don't know what will happen, but what I'm hoping happens is that we get just a huge amount of rollout. The money will come through now through the Vodacom Maziv deal, and we'll start to actually see a real change, and that'll make a real change in people's lives. Several reports today that some people in the motor industry are very worried, of course, about jobs. They want people to buy South African cars. I completely understand that too. They're suggesting to government that we should increase the import tariff on new cars that are being imported into South Africa. It's currently 25%. They're suggesting it should be 30%. Now, I completely get the idea that we should support our car industry. I mean, that makes sense to me. We need people to be employed. They create other industries. There's been a huge amount of concern and worry about what will happen in Joburg, in East London, in Nelson Mandela Bay in particular, because of the US tariffs. And in fact, the CEO of BMW South Africa has been making this point quite recently around policy as well. All well and good. But at the moment, you can, if you are in China, for 135,000 rand buy possibly the cheapest electric car. It's a proper car. It's not like, you know, the quote Bajal quote that you see on the roads. It is a proper car. And the point I'm trying to get to is, I don't know if raising the price of new cars is such a good idea. I mean, it's going to make life more expensive for you. I'd like your view, please. Maybe you're in the car industry. Maybe you're not. Maybe you just want a cheap car. 011-883-0702 and 021-446-0567. We'll talk about the Vodacom deal, or the Maziv deal, with Duncan McLeod in just a moment. Also, Steve Theobald, you know him as the chair of Grootes. He's talking about the reform tracker. We'll get under the hood of that a little bit. And then what's called immersive cinema, or secret cinema. The idea of actually going to a proper cinema, dressing up for the occasion, having a meal before, having a discussion after, meeting people, going in a group of people, suddenly beginning to take off. And I mean, I think watching cinema now is something that very few people do. You sit at home, it's easy, it's convenient. I find, and I don't know what you sort of do on a Friday, but I find there's just so many interruptions. This dog needs to be let out. This popcorn is now gone. This person needs a drink. This person needs the loo. I'm probably responsible for most of them, but I still find it quite frustrating. In a cinema, you sit down and you shut up and you listen to the crunch of everybody eating their popcorn. But this, I think, is going to be something a little different. We'll get under the hood of that in a little while as well. Don't forget voice notes. The last time you went to the cinema, please. What did you see? And did you enjoy it? Frozen 2 was one of the last times I went to a cinema. I think probably Black Panther 2 maybe was the last time I went. 072-702-1702. Your memories. The last movie you went to see in a cinema. Good evening. You're with The Money Show, 11 after 6.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app
and DSTV channel 856.
Well, confirmation this morning that the Competition Appeals Court has now ruled to allow the merger between Vodacom and Maziv to go ahead. in other words, they can now invest in the rollout of broadband fibre internet in many more places. This deal's been in the works for 3.5 years. The Competition Commission, then the Competition Tribunal, both opposed the deal. Eventually, well, they both said it would be anti-competitive. Eventually, the tribunal withdrew its opposition after the two agreed to new conditions. Duncan McLeod is the founder and editor at Techcentral. Duncan, good evening. Gosh, this has taken a long time, and finally, it seems this merger is very nearly here.
Yeah, it's been almost 4 years, if you can believe. They first announced this back in November of 2022. Just a correction, it was actually the Competition Commission that's changed its mind on this. The tribunal opposed it right to the end. But there were negotiations in recent months with the Commission, and they agreed on new terms. And it then went to the Competition Appeal Court, and the Appeal Court agreed with the modified terms agreed to with the Competition Commission, and a couple of days ago said that the deal can proceed. So, yeah, it's going ahead after 3.5 years of wrangling, and the money should flow soon from Vodacom. There's just one last regulatory hurdle that has to be overcome, and it seems it's a minor one, and that's final approval from the communications regulator, ICASA. And then the money should flow, and it should be sitting in Maziv's balance sheet, and they can start to use it to deploy infrastructure.
You talk about ICASA. If I recall, they actually had given a sort of conditional approval earlier. That would suggest then that should happen, hopefully, quite easily.
Yes, my understanding is it's largely a formality. I haven't spoken to ICASA to get their view on the matter today, but my understanding is it's expected to pass.
Okay. The whole idea behind the merger basically is to finance the rollout of a lot more fibre into more places, into township areas, into rural areas. We're seeing Alan Craig actually in Fibre Time doing something quite similar. Are we going to see a lot more activities in this space suddenly?
I think so. I mean, there seems to be a view that fibre can be delivered profitably into some of the lowest LSM areas. So, both Vuma and Fibre Time now have rolled out or are rolling out in Alex, the township near Sandton here in Johannesburg. They've both also been piloting and I think competing quite aggressively sometimes in Kayamandi, which is the township next to Stellenbosch. And they've been experimenting with different models, and they seem confident that they can get this down profitably to a model where they charge R5 a day for prepaid uncapped fibre internet. It's not going to be quite the same fibre that you and I have in our homes, but it will be uncapped and quite usable for streaming services like YouTube, etc. If they can get this right, it could have a very big impact on South Africa's economy and bridging the digital divide and getting the unconnected online. So I hope they get it right. And certainly they're making a lot of noise about investing billions. We're talking about Maziv here in Vumatel, investing billions of rand in townships and underserviced areas to get them connected. So let's hope that happens.
It's really interesting because R5 a day isn't a huge amount of money. It also means that if you're not there, you're not wasting the money, as it were, because you're just going day by day. And that can be quite important for a lot of people, actually, if you consider the sort of way in which we live our lives. It's still, you need quite a lot of capital to make it all work because it's going to take quite some time before you get that capital back. I mean, and I remember when Vuma started rolling out, I think Parkhurst and Joburg was the first one. The first residential area. I mean, it does take a while to get your money back under those circumstances.
It also takes a long time to roll this infrastructure out. I mean, you've got to put teams on the ground. You've got to protect those teams. There's a lot of crime in South Africa. There's business forums. We all know about these problems. This is not now that this deal has gone through, it's not going to be a case of next month everyone's going to have internet across South Africa's townships. This is going to take years of rollout. And multiple operators rolling out. Maziv isn't the only one looking at this market. There are other ones like Frogfoot, which is owned by Vox, OpenServe, which is owned by Telkom, and others that are all interested in making this township model work and getting fibre into people's homes and providing a real uncapped alternative to mobile data, which is very expensive, especially for poorer customers. There's a heck of a lot of work to do, and it's not only going to be Maziv that's doing it.
It's also not the only thing that's happening. I mean, yes, mobile data is very expensive, and I think will probably always be more expensive than fibre, but even its price is coming down. Starlink is going to face some competition. Starlink's in a completely different price category, so you wouldn't really use it in this way. What I'm really trying to get to, though, is that it seems that internet access is going to get closer and closer, proper internet access, to being properly universal and more affordable for a lot more people. The next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see a real change.
That's certainly what we've been hearing through this hearing and the submissions made by Maziv and Vodacom. But that's their intention. Let's hope that they weren't simply promises to the regulator, and that it actually does translate into real infrastructure into the ground and poor people in South Africa getting connected, because we all know that in this day and age, having a good internet connection, a good uncapped interconnection, is basically just a ticket to the game. If you want kids playing around with AI models and learning about large language models and where the world's going, they need to use this stuff at home. And an uncapped, unmetered internet connection is a ticket to the game.
Duncan McLeod, thank you very much indeed, founder and editor at techcentral.co.za. 17 minutes now after 6 o'clock.
The Money Show. Explainer.
Well, last night you heard about the launch of the Business Leadership South Africa Reform Tracker. It's a dashboard that tracks reform across quite a broad range of indices. Basically, it allows you to see how the reform process is actually going, where things are working, where they're not working, and which areas need a lot more attention. There was a Cape Town launch of the event today. I was there and I spoke to some of the people who've been drawing it up. Dr. Stuart Theobald is the chair of Grootes. I asked him how the tracker actually works.
Step one is that we've selected about 240 reform deliverables. So those are specific objectives that government has taken onto its agenda to change the way something works. We then engage with each of those deliverables and look at how far along it's gone. Is it on the agenda? Has a proper plan been drawn up over how it's going to be implemented? And then are there actions that are underway according to that plan? And the last and most important step is, has it been effective? Does it work? Has it achieved its intended goals? So our team of analysts dig through all of the announcements, speeches, and the actual experience of South Africans on the ground and whether they're seeing the reform making a difference in their daily lives, and does that assessment across all 240. And that assessment is now available through the tool. Users can go onto the website, look at things according to themes and different reforms areas, and get a quick heat map of things colored green, orange, red, according to whether they're on track, whether they're behind schedule, facing blockages, whether there's serious obstacles in the past, and see the progress and otherwise that's being made.
So, for example, if I work for an iron company, if I work for Kumba, I can go and see what's happening with Transnet reforms, and that'll impact whether or not I'm going to be able to ship my stuff out of Sishen.
Absolutely. So you can go on, find your way through to the logistics areas, look into that, into what's happening on rail plans and reforms connected to that, look at ports, all of that's there, and you can see the progress that's being made, and hopefully a sense that enables you to plan with some confidence about whether these reforms are really going to come off, when they're going to come off, whether there's anything businesses can do to try and accelerate. And that's a really important function of the reform tracker, is that it allows some coordination and visibility so that both government and business can understand where they can work together to intervene to unlock further progress.
There's some reforms which you mark as making no progress or not happening. Now, my automatic response to that as a journalist is to sort of, point my finger and say, someone isn't doing what they're supposed to do here. Is this what this is going to do?
Well, reforms stop for good and bad reasons. There are sometimes good reasons where things change. Technology changes, prices in markets change, and it doesn't make sense anymore to continue with a specific reform. You'll remember that we spent an awful lot of time in this country forcing new rules for how fixed line telephones must be put into rural areas. And pretty soon we realized we absolutely do not need any more fixed line telephones anyway. So that's an example where it is appropriate that government says, actually, that reform doesn't make sense anymore. Let's stop it. Let's focus on where we can make a difference. But of course, there are also bad reasons that reform stop. And that's usually where they hit political opposition, where there are entrenched vested interests who block reform, or where just people change and momentum gets lost. And the track also highlights those to say these are places where there are real blockages and something has to be done.
It's a lot of areas to track. I mean, it's over 200. I mean, that's an immense job. I mean, yes, there's a graphic representation. You can see your red, your red, your yellow, and your green. But it's still a lot of things to keep an eye on.
So we select reforms that are going to have an impact on the business environment. So is it going to make a difference to how easy it is to do business in South Africa? Well, actually, there's a lot of things that affect that. Everything from the rule of law, the effectiveness of the National Prosecuting Authority, right through to electricity and logistics and reform of the Companies Act and all kinds of detail that directly affect companies. So it does really matter to be broad and say, let's track all of these things. And it also, in that way, helps, I think, companies understand what the future environment is going to look like, because they can start to see momentum and where change is going to come from and not be tunnel visioned, get a broad picture of what's going to affect how they do business.
That's Dr. Stuart Theobald there, the chair of Grootes, the people who put together the Reform Tracker for Business Leadership South Africa.
WhatsApp Stephen
on 072
702
1702.
So various messages coming through on some of the issues we've been talking about tonight. Tony saying, with respect to car imports, they should levy a 30% VAT on the very top-end cars, Bentleys, Ferraris, Rolls-Royce, etc. Those are the vehicles purchased, you say, by the tenderpreneurs. SARS would at least recover a small portion of what Tony believes are stolen funds. All right, well, thanks for that, Tony. I mean, look, I do think there might be some idea in a higher tariff for higher-end cars. I think you might have some sort of other strange consequences if that happens. I asked, what was the last movie you saw in a cinema? How was the experience? Kim saying, I saw Don't Let's Go to the Dogs Tonight. I think that's the Alexandra Fuller book done as a movie. And Sinners, each a tour de force, says Kim. And Denise says Oceans by Sir David Attenborough, the last movie seen recently, well worth seeing on a big screen. That kind of makes sense, actually, those big sort of nature movies. I won't do the Attenborough impression that everyone does. But that does sort of make a suggestion as to what you could actually go and see at a cinema. I think I would enjoy the most about going to a cinema is that I don't have to let the dog out halfway through. I think that for me would probably be the best part of it. I noticed today there's been another set of stories in FIN24 about the SETAs, the Sector Education and Training Authorities. And some of the numbers really are utterly insane if you think about them. This was a Carol Payton story, and I found it utterly amazing how things have changed. So, she says, and this is from research by the Bureau of Economic Research, that the total number of people employed by the SETAs has grown by 60%. Their revenues increased by nearly 50%. I mean, that's a big increase. But their number of certifications per SETA staff member declined. So it took 35 SETA members to get a certification. Now it's gone to 92. I mean, that's astonishing. I mean, there's got to be a better way to actually train and educate people. Surely we can get people into business in a more effective and more efficient way. It seems that this has become more expensive than actually going for a university qualification. And we know how expensive that can be. Really is astonishing. I look forward to your comments and your thoughts on that. I know you'll have one on 011 883 0702 and 021 446 0567.
The Money Show.
The Markets.
Viv Govender, portfolio manager at Rand Swiss. Viv, good evening. Another loss coming out of Sibanye. That really did push the share price down quite dramatically this afternoon.
Yeah, look, I mean, obviously, if you look at these gold stocks, platinum stocks, we've seen a bit of a rally on these things for quite some time, but unfortunately, you still got to make the stuff to actually sell it. And that obviously is not been a positive thing for some of these guys out there. And that's what we're seeing, after, if you look at it, for instance, year to date, the stock price is up almost 130%, based on like the commodity price increasing. Unfortunately, you have to, like I said, actually make the core stuff. And that's where some of these companies are falling behind.
Bytes, the Bytes Technology Group, they're having a share buyback. That's really pushed their prices up, and obviously they seem to be in a strong position to do that.
Yeah, look, I mean, this stock price has obviously been under regular pressure recently, and the fact that we're seeing a bit of recovery right now is obviously to do with that 25 million pound buyback. You would think that considering just the sector it's in, it's in basically the tech sector, which at the moment is, experiencing a bit of a rally, specifically related to AI. The fact of the matter is that we really haven't seen that push through for this particular share at the moment. I do think that, considering just the amount of spending that you'd expect to be happening around the AI sector over the next few years, it should be quite positive for the company. But it remains to be seen whether or not they can actually take advantage of it.
Yeah. A couple of things going on in the building sector today. Avenge, an update just before trading, another loss for them. That what's it called? The J108 project in Singapore. They're building stations there. That seems to keep running into problems.
Yeah, look, I mean, some of these companies obviously have had issues. We have seen, of course, the sector as a whole under particular pressure. But I mean, I do think that if you had to look at, some of their options, especially some of their ventures internationally, it has not really worked out for them. I do think that, you have to obviously take chances with some of these things here because of the fact that we are seeing, issues with regards to, because the local market being under this kind of pressure it has been under. But yeah, I do think that, the moves that they've made internationally really have not worked out here. And the fact that they're saying that they are, the budget provision being raised, is obviously a problem that we have to be worried about.
And then Murray and Roberts, finally, they weren't able to get a quorum for two shareholders' meetings to wind it down, to take a vote. Eventually, I presume one of the creditors was tapped on the shoulder and asked just to go to court to wind it down. But I mean, it was such a big name, and finally it's gone.
Yeah, look, I think if you take a more of a long-term view on this thing, I think this is one of the real, failures of the government, quite frankly. We had obviously the blowback after like 2010, issues around competition and so on, affected the competition sector, but affected the construction sector rather. But I do think that, if you had to think about the country as a whole going forward, like, a decade, 10 decades, whatever we may in the future, we're always going to need construction. And if you don't basically protect the sector, you're going to have to basically hire some other countries, sector to come and basically build the things that you need to be built. And the fact of the matter is that once you have something like this happening with like Murray and Roberts and like the construction sector and the kind of issues we've had in South Africa over the last decade plus, you really are not going to be able to recover this with the kind of ease that you think you would. Once the knowledge is gone, it's gone. So I do think it is a bit of a failure, the fact that we are losing a company that's been around over 100 years. You know what I mean? And the fact of the matter is that the loss of something like this here is, I think, a bit of a tragedy for the country as a whole.
Viv Governor, thanks very much indeed. Portfolio Manager at Rand Swiss, bringing the time on the Money Show to just after 6:30.
702 with Stephen Grootes.
Email him on stephen@702.co.za.
Well, plenty to come in the next little while. We'll talk about SecreEats. We'll also, of course, have the Friday Biz Blitz. And we've got questions tonight around chip makers in the US, around Ikorka, questions also around electric cars coming to South Africa. Lots of talk about electric cars. I don't know if you have a view. I suspect that you may have a view about the question of whether or not we should increase the tariff that's paid to import cars into South Africa. Alistair talking about the last time he saw a movie in the cinema, took the grandchildren to the Minecraft movie in April. Alistair, you're a braver person than I. Firstly, that's 2 hours of my life I shall never get back. I'm sorry, Alistair. I can send my condolences. That's all I can offer. Secondly, it was 700 Rand for tickets, slushy and popcorn for each of a pensioner and 2 kids. Yeah, Alistair, it is, that is the issue, isn't it? The cost mounts up and you're suddenly, in for a ton of money, and all you've really done is kind of fill at the most 3 hours. Now, this is a really good movie. I'm trying to think of one. I'll think for a little while, shall I? 011-883-0702 and 021-446-0567.
The Money Show
with Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app
and DSTV channel 856.
On your next Money Show, ABSA's new and freshly minted CEO, Kenny Fechler, will take you through the company's financial results. MTN's and Tungela Resources CEOs, they'll also deliver their latest figures. We also catch up with the Minerals Council on the Mineral Resources Development Bill. 1 in every 4 loaves of bread sold in the country is made in Sasco. The GM of that bakery, Cornel Vermeulen, will join us on now How I Make My Money feature.
The Money Show.
The Friday File.
The Friday File.
We've been talking a little bit about movies tonight. When were you last in a cinema? Let me ask you this question. Nowadays, in 2025, what are you wearing when you watch a movie? I'll tell you what I'm wearing most of the time when I watch a movie. Usually, maybe a tracksuit, sometimes my pajamas. I'm usually at home. I'm usually on a streaming service. We keep interrupting the movie because this dog needs to go out, that one needs to go in, the other one needs to go and see why the other one's gone out. That person wants ice cream. I need to check my phone to see who that actress is who looks like the person who was in Ferris Bueller or something. There is another way to watch a movie, a very different way to watch a movie. It's called Secret Cinema. It's run by SecreEats. Eats, as in food. Darren Meltz is the SecreEats Events Director for South Africa. Darren, good evening. I would not be wearing my tracksuit at one of your events, now would I?
Good evening, Stephen. No, most definitely not. You would be wearing something a little more elaborate for one of our secret cinemas.
Okay, so what exactly do you do? What kind of vibe are you setting yourself up for?
So, SecreEats is what we call accessible fine dining. So it's giving a fine dining experience to those who would normally not go for such a thing or feels that it's a little bit out of reach. And our secret cinema concept now gives you the opportunity to dress up within the theme of the film, which we only allude to. We don't announce the film because it is a blockbuster release beforehand. So that is kept a bit of a secret. But if you're savvy enough, you will be able to figure out at least the theme or possibly what film it is. And then guests will arrive and have a curated food or canapé and cocktail and wine experience ahead of the film before going into the cinema and enjoying a pre-release screening of an upcoming blockbuster.
Do you have a discussion about the movie afterwards? I don't mean a formal, worthy dissection. I mean, do people hang around afterwards in their best, what's the right phrase, glad rags, and talk a little bit about the movie, how good, or even better, how terrible it was?
Yes, the guests do hang around afterwards. There's nothing really formal, but we do have a few secrets up our sleeves like we always do for the end of the evening. And sometimes we might have like a little sweet treat or a charity raffle or something like that. But guests do hang around, have 1 or 2 more drinks, and speak about the film and their overall experience.
You are sitting in a cinema for this, right? You're not sitting around a formal sort of table trying to crane your neck. It's trying to crane your neck to get a good look.
That's correct. It is cinema style. So it's a private cinema in Sandton, and that's also one of our secrets, is that the location gets revealed the morning of the event, but it is definitely cinema style. It seats about only 40 guests per screening, and you will then receive your regular popcorn and cool drink to enjoy as another treat whilst you're watching the film.
It's not a movie if you can't hear the popcorn. Do you find that people go in groups, maybe people around a particular theme, if you sort of hinted at what the theme is, that actually it's something, 10, 15, maybe 20 people go together?
That has happened. It's a variety of different bookings that we get. So for Secret Cinema, we've had groups of about 4 or 6. We do have some brave souls that do come on their own and mingle and meet some new friends over something great to eat and drink and a great movie. So it is quite varied.
So, I mean, the idea of dressing up and doing it like that, does that sort of automatically change the sort of vibe? It does. I mean, dressing up, I'm not a huge fan of dressing up myself, but I do realize that it adds an element to an event that you just don't get unless you do that.
Yeah, absolutely. It contributes to the whole vibe of the evening, as you say. We do say that dress up is strongly encouraged, not mandatory. So if you're not feeling too brave, you can still come in your finest smart casual wear. But it definitely does. Our initial Secret Eats, when we launched the concept, we did it for Mission Impossible. So those who did dress up came in their spyware, their cocktail dresses, their tuxedos. So it does give an elevated feel to the evening.
I mean, there's some movies people really will dress up for, and I'm thinking automatically of the Rocky Horror Picture Show. I mean, some people will dress up for some things if you do it right.
Yes, absolutely, and that is strongly encouraged. Our upcoming film is very much in the English countryside, sort of aristocratic feel. So I'm sure that already gets the brains ticking as to what the film could be. So we're expecting a different feel and vibe from what the guests turn out in on these evenings.
Getting the movies pre-release, is that a little tricky? Movies often, I mean, there was a time when, things would be kept under lock and key. They would move around from country to country. Now they're sort of released everywhere, all at the same time, sometimes in cinemas, sometimes streaming, literally at the same time. How difficult is it to actually get a movie that hasn't been on wide release nowadays?
It is quite difficult. We've luckily managed to strike up a specific partnership with one of the licensing companies for quite a few of the major releases or movie production houses. So through that partnership, we've created Secret Cinema, and we partner with them. So it's like a give and take relationship where we say we would like that film, and then they go and through their internal processes and then say, yes, we can offer this one to you for release, for pre-release screening.
I mean, we've had plenty of conversations around the death of cinema, and you can sort of see it happening, and it's really becoming a kind of a speciality thing in a way. Events like this kind of help with that, right? This is the way cinema might go. It's about the value add, the experience, the watching it with like dressed people.
Yes, most definitely, and it ties in so nicely to what a Secret Eats is all about. It's about the immersion and the experience and all of the elements coming together to make it such an evening. So watching a film, or the films that we'll be screening on a smaller screen at home through streaming or just in a regular cinema, is not going to give you that same sort of feel. So as you say, it's the experience and the value add that really makes it appealing for somebody to come to something like a Secret Cinema.
How popular has it been? Have you seen that, I mean, do you run it in seasons? So you sort of do it, for a couple of weeks in a row and then sort of wait a little bit? I mean, that can sometimes be the best way to keep interest at a high.
Yeah, we do it when there is a release that we believe is going to garner enough attention. So we did our first one as a pilot for Mission Impossible, and we only did one screening, and it sold out within a couple hours. Not even. Then we decided that we still want to keep it quite niche. So for this next one that's coming up, we've only got 3 screenings. So it's 40 guests per evening, and we do it for that short period, and then it's literally fastest fingers first. So the bookings, there are still quite a few seats remaining for one of our screenings, which is an afternoon matinee, which we're doing for the first time. But the other screenings, I just saw just before we jumped onto this call that the one has sold out. So we keep it small and niche, and then we move on to the next screening, because Secret Eats also does have a variety of other concepts and options to keep everybody's appetite wet, and then Secret Cinema will pop up again when there's another appealing release that we can create a magical evening around.
I mean, the food's such a vital part of all of this, really, is that sort of experience beforehand. I mean, that's really where most of your focus goes.
Yes, absolutely, because we're creating that experience. So we had, for Mission Impossible, we had self-destruct canapes, which would literally just melt in your mouth. And for this one, it's going to be a lavish high tea spread. So it really does contribute to the experience, and then gives you a feel for that world before you actually then walk in and see it on screen.
You don't have to hang from the roof. Darren Meltz, thanks very much indeed. The SecreEats Events Director for South Africa.
Stephen Grootes
Taking your calls
on 011-883-0702.
All right, time for the Friday Biz Blitz tonight on The Money Show. You know the number. You know how this works. You call us. I put a question to you. If you get the answer correct, we move on to the next question. If you get it wrong, we move on to the next caller. 011-883-0702, 021-446-0567. Questions tonight around electric cars, around chip makers in the US. But your first question tonight on the Friday Biz Blitz. Which JSE listed bank is buying the fintech company iKhokha for 1.65 billion rand? Which JSE listed bank is buying the company iKhokha for a whopping 1.65 billion rand? 011-883-0702, 021-446-0567.
The Money Show, Friday Biz Blitz.
You know the number, 011-883-0702, 021-446-0567. Which JSE listed bank is buying the fintech company iKhokha for 1.65 billion rand? L in Centurion, you were the first caller. Good morning. Good evening.
Hello, Stephen. It's Nedbank.
It is Nedbank, L. Congratulations. And they're buying 100% of iKhokha in an all-cash deal. Okay, time for the second question tonight. AMD and which other chip maker are required to pay 15% of their sales revenue to the US government when they sell specific artificial intelligence chips in China? The one company is AMD. Which is the other that has to pay the special 15% tax to the US government?
Stephen, I haven't got a clue, bud. I haven't got a clue.
All right,
If
Al.
I had to take a wild guess, I'd go.
All right, thanks, Al. Let's try Porsche. Porsche, hi. Do you know the answer?
It's Nedbank, Stephen.
Sorry, Porsche. Yes, we moved on to the next question. I'll give you the next question.
Okay.
It's okay. Okay, it's no problem. So two big American microchip makers have to pay a tax of 15% on their sales to China for specific AI chips. One of the companies is AMD. Which is the other company?
Oh, I don't know that one, Stephen.
You're going to kick yourself. We talk about it on the Money Show all the time. Sorry, Porsche. Alex in North Riding. Alex, good evening.
The answer is, how are you?
Yeah, go for it.
It's Intel.
It's not Intel, Alex. I'm sorry. Saki, do you know the answer? Please put us out of our misery.
NVIDIA.
It's NVIDIA, yes. Okay, it is NVIDIA. So it's NVIDIA and AMD. All right, third question. Which global car maker wants to enter our fully electric vehicle market? They're going to sell 3 electric cars here in South Africa in early next year. Which global car maker wants to do that, Saki?
Yeah.
It's a massive car maker. Oh, Saki.
It's Beyond or something.
It's not Beyond, I'm afraid, Saki. Sorry, Saki. Okay. Let's try Diaz. Diaz, hi. Do you know which car maker is going to sell 3 cars here?
It's Ziad, but I don't know this answer. I'll take a wild guess. It's Toyota.
Yes, it is Toyota, yes.
Oh, wow.
Okay, yes. All right. Now, to a JSE trading code, SBK is the JSE trading code of which bank? SBK.
SBK.
SBK. It's the trading code of which bank? Riaz?
SBK. Standard Bank.
Standard Bank. Congratulations. You're a winner.
Great stuff.
Riaz, Good evening. Thank you. Congratulations. You're a winner of the Friday Biz Blitz. Thanks for playing. Really do appreciate it. Good evening. You're with The Money Show. It's 7 o'clock.